Welcome back to another episode of Growth Marketers Podcast. I'm Samuel Timothy.
And I'm Taylor Rowe. This is another installment of our Best in Class series where we dive into and evaluate the characteristics of best in class organizations from a marketing and sales perspective. And so this week we're talking about their technology stack, what that looks like at a best in class organization, what you can learn from these best in class organizations in order to make your company and organization and marketing department a leader in your industry. So please give us a like, subscribe to the podcast. Let's dive right in.
Hi, Taylor. We are back with another episode of Growth Marketers Podcast. We are continuing our series on the best-in-class companies. We've been talking about the different characteristics and components of what makes a best-in-class companies. Today, we're going to be talking about tech stack and reporting and KPIs.
Absolutely. Welcome back, everybody. And we're excited to continue this series. It's been fun for us, and it's a great exercise to look at all of our clients and look at our business as well, and kind of reflect and try to improve and become a best-in-class organization. And so, as you mentioned, Samuel, we're going to start with tech stack today. So, obviously, best-in-class organizations are leveraging technology and leveraging technology to make their team more efficient and gain insights and make them more agile. And so we want to talk about what their technology stacks look like and how you can implement them into your organization. So the first thing I would say, again, we're looking at this through the lens and scope of the marketing department. Again, this is kind of a two-part episode. If you listen to last week's episode, we started talking about marketing strategies, team structure, and so now we're talking about tech stack related to the marketing department. So the first thing that I would say about tech stack is that best-in-class organizations run their marketing strategies to reach their audience and to best influence their customers throughout the buyer's journey. They don't build their marketing strategy around the tech stack or around the capabilities or lack of capabilities that their tech stack possesses. So, a quick example would be, following a playbook, if you will, given by a tech stack or a marketing automation system. We've talked a lot about, let's say, gated content in the past, right? So just because the way that our technology solution measures and allows us to execute campaigns, right? They say, well, we have a landing page and we have a CTA and you have a form and you have a gated piece of content and we have automatic delivery of that form, and then we mark the lead as an MQL, and then you can nurture to that prospect. Just because that technology and that functionality exists in that sort of a old school B2B marketing ebook playbook, doesn't mean that that's the best way to market to your company. So best-in-class companies look at what's the most effective and efficient way to get in front of our audience and then use that technology to aid and inform the marketing, but that is not their marketing strategy. The technology itself is not their marketing strategy. They use the technology to best execute their marketing strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. A lot of times I think they're like you said, the playbook might be like, oh, we do email marketing and this tool just allows you to do email marketing, and they just do email blast, but not necessarily thinking like, hey, are we properly segmenting our contacts? Are we sending the relevant information to our prospects? And is it timely? And are we just doing, one size fits all message and frequency to touch these prospects? So trying to work within the technology limitations and what they've been taught by whoever else taught the marketing frameworks, and they're just following that and not necessarily putting the customer at the center of everything that they're doing and just leveraging the technology to just empower what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, and attribution is a huge feature of a lot of these marketing automation tools and technologies, and we've seen a lot of discussions recently around dark social and offline channels and how people actually convert and consume information. And ultimately, it's going back to our roots as marketers in terms of like self-reported attribution, right? And so that's another use case where best-in-class companies are looking at how they're reporting attribution and leveraging tech stack logically, and again, really asking their customers, right? So rather than reporting on the default conversion paths and default reporting and attribution tools that are native into the tech stack, they're thinking outside the box, or maybe just thinking more simply and adding things like a self-reported attribution, and then leveraging the tools and technologies that they have available to compare and contrast those two reports, and then make informed decisions around where their customers are actually coming from and which marketing channels are really influencing that conversion path.
Yeah. So definitely that, like technology is not the strategy. The strategy is to really be tailoring your content and marketing to reach your buyer persona, your ideal customer profile, and then technology is just an enabler.
Absolutely. So the next thing that I would say that the best-in-class companies are doing better than their competition is integrating these tools, right? So the MarTech landscape is ever expanding and becoming more and more complex by the day, which ultimately means it's becoming more disconnected as well. So best-in-class organizations understand, again, that we're not just buying tools to drive the strategy. We're buying tools to enable our people, to inform our people, and to ultimately become more efficient with our marketing strategies. And that really means that these tools need to be integrated and connected. Our CRM, our marketing automation system, our website, customer service, if we have an ERP system that we need to integrate into, the more what we refer to as full funnel analytics, the more comprehensive view that we have as a marketing department, the better we can ultimately market to our organization. And that comes down to having integrated systems.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it might even be a requirement when we talked about the technology being an enabler, not the strategy. But sometimes there is an opportunity there for a rip and replace, because if you have legacy systems that are running in your organization, you need to ask yourself the question, well, is this actually enabling us to do our job better, or is it actually hindering us, right? Is it providing us the intelligence and insight that we need to make informed decisions, or it's actually keeping us in the dark? And we see this, we can talk about a lot of horror stories, and we'll share some of those in the time ahead. But in terms of, being able to have tools connect does mean that these have to be some of the best-in-class tools as well, right? So if you're going to become the best-in-class companies, you don't want to be going, cheap on products when you buy. You want to make sure that you're buying tools that actually is going to help you to make the connections between tools, internal operating tools for your operations, your sales tools and marketing tools. They all need to be speaking to each other. You shouldn't have to do any sort of manual upkeep to keep that data clean.
Sure. Yeah, and you have to look at scalability, right, in the future of your marketing department. The best-in-class organizations are always thinking, 2-3 steps ahead, rather than, purchasing a piece of software, or like you said, point solution for individual tactics or campaigns they're trying to run based on the size of company or organization or strategies they're implementing today, because then you become pigeonholed into that technology, like you said. And if you from day one think about the scalability and how we're going to grow and expand and what our marketing software should look like in the future, that's going to be a great start. And then also you want to purchase technologies that are also forward thinking, right? And you want to continue to push the envelope. When you look at as you mentioned, a best-in-class organization, they're partnering with other best-in-class tools and technologies and partners and vendors and those type of things. So you want the same out of your marketing technology. You want that marketing technology also to be a leader in the space, because they're going to be adding, you want them to be adding new features and functionality as things expand and grow. So I think one other point we would make based on that is that best-in-class organizations are always questioning their tech stack and pushing the boundaries and testing new tools, and almost have an internal kind of R&D mindset when it comes to their tech stack, their marketing strategies, their campaigns. Obviously, recently there's been a lot of talk about ChatGPT and AI. So I think those are examples of ways that organizations, even if you don't, it's not part of your marketing strategy today, or it's not a critical piece, it may be tomorrow, right? So it may be next year. So you might want to always be, learning and testing these different tools, and have some budget set aside for that type of, research and strategy development.
Yeah, one thing I would add too is like, I know we talked a lot about the mindset of a best in class companies. The companies that actually are investing into technology, they also need to value time more than money, because oftentimes we've seen companies that are wasting time on manual import export, taking data from marketing tools and importing it into email tools, and then they just don't have the right data in multiple places, and they're wasting time. They don't understand the time it takes to actually do all those manual work. From an efficiency standpoint, your lost revenue and lost opportunity, you could just probably solve those things with a little bit of integration or investing into a tool that actually has some of those features built in. We've helped a lot of companies with adapting software, and we've seen how much struggle they have trying to get the data out of their legacy tools, trying to get into their to the new platform that they're buying. So time, efficiency, value those things, right? When you're investing in technology, integration definitely is a priority, but you also don't want to be, trying to save a couple of bucks by making your employees do some manual task.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that comes down to, again, understanding the parameters that impact that cost, right, and how you're measuring that cost. I mean, the really understanding the total cost of ownership of these tools, like you said, how much custom integration work, development work, administrative work is required, and then ultimately, what percentage of your fixed costs in terms of your overhead is going towards, like you said, manual, menial tasks that could, otherwise be automated, right? And we see that one a lot where, we'll manage this internally, or we'll do this process manually because we don't have budget to, spend in the short term to automate this process. Yet, we're going to spend, 50% of our time in terms of our labor doing this manual process that could be automated. And yeah, it doesn't necessarily add any additional increase, like incremental cost to you, but the opportunity cost, like you said, over the long term is much greater. So really understanding that is what companies are doing, and that's how you're making decisions that lead you to become that best in class. So when it comes to the tech stack, Sam, what components would you say make up a best-in-class organization, or what components does that technology need to enable in order for it to be considered a best-in-class tech stack?
Yeah, I think the number one thing to consider when you're assessing the technology to integrate or implement in your organization is the flexibility. What I mean by that is, we've seen stories of where companies have to rely on a department like a technology department or IT department for a marketing function to execute something, and it doesn't allow the flexibility that the marketing team needs. That's a big no-no when it comes to assessing whether or not that technology is the right fit for your organization. So you want technology that enables you to execute at a much higher pace, and you want technology that's not going to have you depend on other departments or other functions to actually do your job. So flexibility is probably one of the things that I would say is a number one thing you want to keep in mind when you're implementing or buying and setting up a tech stack.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we've seen so many times where marketing departments are, not to be dramatic, but held hostage by their IT team, right? And every single, small change to, one pixel on the website has to be a ticket that runs through IT department, which, of course, the IT department has other priorities that they're working on and other things that they should be doing to move the business forward, as well as, maintain and keep the lights on for the organization. So updating the website should not really fall under the IT company's purview. And that comes down to, like you said, the ability for, speed to execution, and, the ability to, that compounding effect of getting things done faster, testing, iterating, moving, and improving from there. So I agree with that. You don't want to be held hostage. We talked about scalability. We've seen a lot of times, software companies will have their development team that's building their application, whether it's a mobile app or a web app. They're the ones that are controlling the website from the beginning, which a lot of times it makes sense because, marketing is not a big driver of growth for some of these SaaS companies in the initial phase. And really the front end of the website is just, homepage and a couple of overview pages. and it doesn't need a lot of modifications because the sales process is happening through referrals and connections that ultimately spawned the initial growth of the business. And then you get to a point where you don't want to build the business based on those unscalable activities. You want to build the business based on marketing, right? And so when you go to try to improve the website and make changes and adjustments and actually implement content marketing and SEO and create webinars and educational content for middle of the funnel or existing customers and support information, like anything you try to do, you have to go back to that same organization or department that's building the framework for the application. That's not really a great process, right? And so that's where we see a lot of issues, a lot of security, issues, concerns, updating code ultimately updates the application, and there's so many issues that you want that to be separate. You want the marketing team to have that flexibility and the ability to make changes on the website without impacting any other, having any other implications on your product.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this, like you said, probably the SaaS companies are probably the ones we've seen the most, where the website is definitely owned by the tech team, and they're very concerned about any sort of marketing changes that you want to make to the site, whether it be content changes or implementing some sort of a new feature or function on the site, that they're all angsty about the security concerns, which at the end of the day, it actually hinders your ability to execute fast and test and iterate and do whatever needed to be done. So I think, separate the website from your web app so your marketing team has full access to the marketing side of the website and can create content, launch pages, do different sort of landing pages or other things, and implement other technology that needs to be behind the scene running to make the marketing function happen. The other extreme is also where the IT team controls the website, and they see the website as part of the IT function and not as a marketing function. We've seen that, and it's every time we've had website conversation or marketing conversations with the team, and they bring the IT department, and oftentimes where is this hosted, and do we have control, and who has access, and all of those things, as if website is somehow going to give access to their customers' database or some social security addresses of people that work at the company or something like that. Both are some real extremes, but we've seen both sides of that spectrum and had to maneuver a lot of those things, and we've seen companies that took our advice and went along with our recommendations have succeeded, and there are companies that are still kind of held back because of their IT infrastructure controlling their web property, or any changes to the product itself. Any changes to the website requires the product team that are working on the app having to work on the website, delays any changes that need to be done. I mean, of course, if you're a SaaS company, you're going to always focus the product more than your marketing side of the business. So they're always not going to be prioritizing any changes that are requested by the marketing team.
Sure. All right. So the first, component we talked about, flexibility. I think the next component that I would say best-in-class organizations have is that visibility, right? Best-in-class organizations, their tech stack provides, again, full funnel visibility. It provides visibility into strategies that are working, strategies that are not working, where in the funnel, in the buyer's journey, is there friction, where are things falling off. Gives them data and insights to make informed decisions around making the proper optimizations, budget allocation, resource allocation, where we can make improvements. So that visibility piece is something that, the tech stack should be, one of the biggest priorities, right? Your tech stack should give you that visibility. And a lot of times we see companies that are paying for tools that should give visibility, but back to that integration piece, there's huge disconnects and gaps, which, basically renders that technology, useless for some of these visibility functions, right? Because we don't have any visibility into the sales process, or it's, our sales team is using a different CRM than our marketing system is connected to. And so once the lead is, converted, it's an email, connection or something like that, an email that goes out to the salesperson, and then we don't know where the opportunity is in the pipeline. And so as marketers, it's difficult to make informed decisions on front end strategies if we don't know how we're influencing the actual sales and actual revenue. So I would say best-in-class organizations have a tech stack that provides that visibility, and they're constantly looking to improve that clarity and make informed decisions based on that data.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a real world example. This is a company that we're starting to work with. It's a printing company. They have websites actually driving a consistent flow of inbound leads. They're doing Google ads as well as content marketing and SEO. So the inbound lead flow is there, but their website is not connected to their CRM. So the reps have to manually enter all the leads back into their CRM system and then keep a tab of all the inbound leads in the code and the deals that are coming from it. But then the estimating tool is separate, so they have to go to an estimating department to get the estimates. So the reps have to manually attach all these estimates and create additional codes inside the CRM system. So there's like 3 different disconnected tools, and having to do all these things are making the reps inefficient. So because of that, they skip a very valuable step, which is creating deals and codes, because they just take the estimates, send it directly via email, and don't waste their time in CRM to add all that data. So when you look at, like you said, getting visibility into a 360-degree view of the customer journey and how much revenue generated or the opportunities from every lead that came in and what channel drove the most amount of sales opportunities and where you got the most amount of revenue from, that information is getting lost because the reps are wasting all of their energy trying to do this, record keeping, and they don't have time for that because they want to rather just get that deal, and they're skipping steps that are very valuable. It's all because it's all disconnected tools, and it's creating a lot of problem. And like you said, the visibility is not there for the leadership to take very strategic decisions on where should they be spending their marketing dollars and how can they empower and enable their sales team to do their job better.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I think the third and kind of final component to a best-in-class tech stack is automation. We talk about marketing automation all the time, but what are some ways that organizations are leveraging automation to improve their processes?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing is just segmenting your contacts automatically. So imagine that if you have contacts coming in, and if there's a way for them to self report who they are, whether they're company size or just who they are, right, in terms of their name and job function, and then automatically segmenting them. And also you can use third-party tools that can speak to your marketing automation or your CRM system to enhance that person's data, right? Whether they just provide you a corporate email and their name, and then easily you can add their company name, company size, employee headcount, revenue, industry, and any of the other things. There are third-party tools that are available, Clearbit being one of them, and ZoomInfo has data enhancement features. There's a lot of other data providers that can actually easily augment or add additional data about each contact that are in your database, and then can segment that contact automatically. And we've seen time and time again where people spend a lot of energy doing manual research to find all the information and trying to append that. And there's no way human beings can keep up with all the changes that are happening in an organization in terms of what might be going on with job changes, people changing jobs, or technology changes, and all of those things. So automating that part could be just one simple thing you could implement. It does cost money, but it actually does make it more efficient, and you will also have more accurate data. That could be something easily be automated in a company.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think other ways, best-in-class organizations are leveraging automation is, as we talked about, automating, menial tasks. As you just mentioned, I think data hygiene and cleanliness is another place where automation makes a lot of sense. Whether it's updating field properties, copying field properties, removing, duplications, reminding salespeople or marketers to update certain fields or properties that are necessary and required for future segmentation models, as you mentioned. So I think that data hygiene piece, we always talk about the value of data, and there's been people saying data is more valuable than oil, or taking over the number one spot for the most valuable resource in the world. So we understand a lot of times the value of data, but not a lot of effort is going into some of these organizations in terms of keeping that data clean and accurate. And automation can certainly help with that if you leverage properly.
Most certainly.
I think, the other piece of automation, I think it comes down to, efficiency, right? So, if you, as you mentioned earlier, if if you can automate some of those tasks and things that are being done manually and being done over and over and over again, it really comes down to efficiency. So what else, it's not the automation of the task that's the value. It's what else your team could be doing with their time that is really the value. So I think that's something you have to ask, your team internally and ask yourself is, what would I do if I had more time, right? What would I prioritize? What would I do next if I had an extra couple of hours in my day? And, compound that over a week, compound that over a month. What would you do with an extra day or an extra week every month? And that's the real value.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the ways that it can be done is like surfacing opportunities, right? Like even, one of the features of a marketing automation platform is the ability to grade and score and prioritize leads based on where they are in the sales journey and how engaged they are as a buyer. Any other signals that you can probably collect about them. So if there's a way to surface those opportunities to a rep that needs to prioritize those leads and follow up, or automate some of those follow-ups so that actually can that you don't have anybody falling through the cracks. So I think that automation could also be very efficient and can help on the revenue generation side as well.
Sure. So throughout this, best-in-class series, we talked about the mindset the best-in-class organizations have when it comes to marketing and sales. We've talked about how they develop strategy. We've talked about their tech stack and what that looks like. So I think kind of the natural culmination of all of that is reporting and metrics and KPIs. What are best-in-class organizations doing? How are they defining success? How are they setting goals? And how are they reporting on that?
Yeah, I think before you even start reporting, the number one thing that they need to adapt is some sort of a smart goal setting methodology, right? Because I think one of the biggest mistake that we all make is like we're very aspirational people, or we're very we're optimistic about what is possible in a short time period, and great expectations on what can be accomplished with technology and automation and paid tools and things of that nature, right? Paid channels and things of that nature. But before you jump into any sort of measurement, you need to have some sort of a SMART goal set up, right? In terms of is it specific, is it measurable, is it attainable, is it realistic, and is it time bound, right? So, and realistic is the number one thing I would highlight, because we see people oftentimes, they have no historical baseline metrics of what was achievable. And then they go come up with this new strategy, buy a new tool. Immediately they think they can have a 10x return tomorrow. So without having some sort of a SMART goal set up, you'll probably be, putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on your team and also unrealistic expectation. And you're going to have some, disappointments along the way if you can't meet those expectations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I think you need to be realistic with where you are and where you want to go and what information you need to start measuring in order to make those informed decisions, right? A lot of organizations that fail, right, is because they expect everything to be perfect, the first time, rather than taking the time that it requires to first build the baseline and then understand which variables you need to kind of tweak in order to improve the end result, right? So I think, again, that's the first step, is setting those SMART goals. And then I think the next thing is really knowing those metrics, knowing their numbers, right? And so whether they're good metrics or bad, just realistically knowing, what metrics matter to us as an organization and, really why they matter, right? And so I think it comes down to, not vanity metrics around, like I said, leads in the sense of MQLs or, SQLs and those type of things. But they have some sort of way to, both qualitative and quantitative measure the impact of their marketing across all channels.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you mentioned is very important, because I think vanity metrics is what usually marketing team likes to report on, especially or keep people accountable to, like, oh, we need this many, MQLs every month, or we need to see our traffic metrics to be this much, or we need this many comments on our social post. All of those things are probably, in surface level might be important. They could also be a leading indicator of what could actually be happening in the future. But don't be spending all your energy just looking at the vanity metrics. That could be a waste of time for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So really what you should be looking at is, if you're looking at, net new opportunities, right? And you're looking to determine the overall efficacy of different marketing channels or campaigns, I would look at your actual pipeline, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to drive opportunities and ultimately drive revenue. So I would look at truly, marketing sourced opportunities, marketing sourced pipeline. Look at that in comparison as a ratio maybe to your revenue. Again, a lot of organizations get stuck in this, the MQL hamster wheel, so to speak, of we generated 100 MQLs last quarter. We need 150 this quarter, and we need 250 the next quarter, and it's just this constant, battle to try to get MQLs, really to no avail, right? Because those MQLs are converting at such a, converting to opportunities and sales at such a low ratio. That's why you need such a high number, and then the whole department is striving towards this goal of generating this MQL metric that doesn't really mean much for the organization in terms of actual revenue, right? And so really understanding what is driving pipeline is what I would focus on. And then from there, as you mentioned, you can look at the leading indicators towards those. You can look at things around cost per click, cost of acquisition, cost per lead. But I would look at them in terms of the lifetime value of the organization, the percentage of those leads that are turning into opportunities, the sales cycle or sales velocity, what is our close ratio, what is the average deal size, what kind of ROI are we getting. Look at hard metrics around revenue rather than those vanity metrics around clicks, impressions, and leads if leads aren't actual opportunities. So that would be the advice I would give if you're trying to, again, leverage your data from your tech stack to become a best-in-class marketing organization.
Yeah. One example I can give is we have clients that are actually very much focused on the number of leads. Again, we preach this because we are learning from our own experience and talking with customers where they have every quarter they want to increase their number of leads by a certain percentage, and then if they're not hitting, and then there's a lot of pressure from the top. Part of the reason is they're supposed to feed their internal sales team with a certain number of leads per rep, and if they don't have that number met, then they're often feeling like, oh, we haven't met our goal because we didn't hit the number of leads generated targets. But the one area where they're struggling to give us feedback on is the number of leads that are actually converting, and for which products they're getting the most qualified leads, and which of them actually convert into deals. So going back to what you said about the cost per lead or the cost per click, oftentimes if all you're caring about is the number of leads, then you're going to optimize for the most least cost per lead, and you're going to optimize for the least cost per click, and then try to get as many leads as possible. But then you could also be not necessarily investing enough into the quality, the products that are actually driving the most amount of revenue, or the leads that are actually converting at a higher rate, or the terms that are actually probably generating the most amount of sales. There's a lot of other factors that you overlook because of all you're trying to optimize for is the cost per lead and the number of leads generated, right? So if you're not really assessing where you get the most value for your marketing dollars and which of your leads are actually converting at a higher percentage and at a higher average deal size, you could always be just optimizing for the wrong number, which is the number of leads or the cost per lead, which is a mistake that we've seen marketing team make a whole lot of times.
Many times, yeah. And I think that's a natural segue into our final component of best-in-class marketing organizations when it comes to their strategy, their tech stack, is that best-in-class marketing organizations have a system in place or a mechanism for that feedback loop. And this is constantly evaluated, right? So like you mentioned, are we doing some sort of a win-loss analysis? Are we meeting with our salespeople to understand the value and the quality of these leads? Are we meeting with our customers, whether they're customers for 5 years or customers for 5 days, understanding why they choose to work with us, right? Why did they choose to work with us 5 years ago? Why did they continue to stay with us? What other decisions information led to their decision, what was going on in their organization when they decided to look for our solution. Really having a system in place to gather that feedback and then make informed decisions based on that feedback is what separates those best-in-class organizations from the rest of the field. And then I think you also have to take that information and take that feedback and almost step away from all of the technology, all from the marketing jargon, and just think logically, right? if you put yourself in your customer's shoe and think logically about, well, where would I find this information? How would I make this purchase decision, and what would be helpful to me? Those are the type of things you want to do. And sometimes it's against, again, conventional wisdom when it comes to marketing. And those individual tactics, campaigns, pieces of content aren't always that showing up in that attribution software, right? If you created a piece of content, an educational content, a video that you put on YouTube or you put on LinkedIn or something like that, and maybe it had could have 5 views, could have 500, could have 5 million views, but it really is just that one person, that one right person that watched that at the right time, and it helped help them have that aha moment and realize, oh yeah, this is the process I need to follow, this is the company I need to work with. If that led them to either become interested in your company and just start following your content, if that led them to become a customer immediately, it doesn't really matter. You have to, again, look at the entire strategy, again, in its entirety, for you to think logically about how we can help influence the buyer's journey, how we can help inform and educate our customer and produce more buyer-ready leads for our sales department rather than, again, those vanity metrics.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. A lot of times I think we're all working in silos. Marketing department is doing their own thing and sales department is doing their own thing. And most of the time we're not even talking to our customers. So I think that definitely is an important part of a well-oiled machine. Any sort of best-in-class company should be working in unison with the entire marketing and sales team, and then also very much having their ear to their customer, whether they decided to work with you or not, chose not to work with you. You should still know why. Why did you lose that deal, and how did they even find you in the first place, and what could we have done differently or better to win them, right? If we had another shot at it.
Yeah.
So,
and it goes back to our, the very first episode in this best-in-class series about mindset, right? The best-in-class organizations have a continuous improvement mindset. And implementing this type of feedback loop mechanism is a part of that, right? If you're continuously trying to improve, you would ask yourself, well, how do we improve, except for learning from our successes, learning from our failures, and continuing to test and iterate and strive towards perfection, with the understanding that perfection is probably unattainable, but we can do our best to be better than everybody else and provide a best-in-class inbound buying experience for our customers. So hopefully you found some pieces, some nuggets of information and wisdom within this podcast, and some things that you can implement into your organization. Please tune in next week. We're going to start to dive into best-in-class organizations, sales departments, customer success. Really, we're looking at all revenue-facing departments, and the culmination of all of that is going to be an episode based around revenue operations, which ultimately is a very, very hot topic right now. So please subscribe to the podcast, share with a friend, give us a like, comment on what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to hear in future episodes. Everything helps. Any feedback helps us improve the podcast. It also helps with the algorithms when you subscribe and like. So please tune in next week, and we'll be back then.
Growth Marketers is brought to you by One IMS, helping you reach new heights through integrated marketing. One world, one web, one IMS.